This is Good Noticings.
Welcome to the inaugural ever episode of Good Noticings. Thank you guys so much for coming here. I don't know if you've come from Celebrity Mom or Book Club, or you've just randomly stumbled upon us today and you're so excited
to discover a brand new podcast.
But we're so happy to have you here. We cannot wait to see where this podcast goes and grows. And I'm excited to get into this episode. Ashley, do you have anything you need to share with the class about what happened to you today? What happened to you recently?
I got into like a physical altercation on my run.
Ashley's training for the marathon. I'll say it so she doesn't have to.
Listen, we're kind of in the meat of it right now where it's most of my time. It's most of what I'm doing and it's most of my mental load.
I know that people get a lot of shit for talking about their marathon training. And I feel like every single time Ashley comes to me with a grievance that's marathon training adjacent, I'm kind of like, well, that's a very valid grievance. And she's like, no, it's more about me because I'm marathon training. And I'm like, oh, how quickly they fall. Ashley was complaining about the price of a bottle of water the other day. And she's like, but it's worse because I'm marathon training. And I'm like, totally. Inflation's only hurting Ashley.
I know that I'm not the only person marathon training in the world, but I do feel that I'm the only person that like God and all of his soldiers are like insisting that I stop. They said, why did you think that this was possible? Look at you clanging down the street. Did you think that you could run for 26.2 miles? Yeah, fucking right. And I said, hey man, you're making a great case.
And what happened today?
Today I was running merrily down the road. A girl was walking down the street and like she just like came into my shoulder and I like stuck my hand out because I saw someone running into me and it exploded her giant Dunkin' Donuts.
Wait, she hit your shoulder or she hit your hand?
Like she was like coming into my shoulder. And so then I like moved her away with my hand.
Interesting. Unfortunately, the story has changed since I've last heard it.
Okay, let me retell it.
Sure. To make you sound less guilty.
Correct. She didn't hit me. She was coming into my shoulder. So I stuck out my hand. Our bodies didn't really touch. I came in contact with her gigantic coffee. And listen, I love gigantic coffee. The only reason to go to Dunkin' Donuts is because they do a proper large. Okay, I live in New York City where suddenly large is the smallest cup you've ever fucking seen. And you go, what do you mean large? That's but a sip.
If we're going down with America, then let me have an American-sized amount of coffee.
Exactly. So this large coffee like explodes in my hand all over both of us. And then I just kept running and I said, I'm really sorry. But I also was like, look up, girlfriend.
I do want to let the listeners know when I heard this story today, I really thought, well, Ashley's impeachably correct.
I think we were both, I would say, actually equally wrong. That's how I feel about it. Because I don't feel right about this situation, but I don't feel wrong about it.
And what would you suggest to people?
What I would suggest to people is look up.
Sure.
What I would suggest to people is listen, and I'm guilty. I've walked down the street on looking at my cell phone. I've done it. I just don't think that means you're the right person if something happens. I was looking straight ahead and even a little bit left to right. I had a pretty good frame of vision of the road in front of me and she like came out from around a corner like into me. I wasn't out there trying to explode coffees, but it did make me feel powerful. Tell me about your instance.
Well, I guess I also went to work out today.
I guess we're both really strong.
Yeah, mine was a little bit different. I do a version of 12-3-30 where I walk slower and at a less incline. It's kind of like an 11-2.5-25. So I go in today and there's just an alarm going off. I looked around the gym and I said, is anybody even noticing that this is happening or am I the only one who can hear it? So I get on the treadmill and I just start walking and I start reading my articles for today. And I have to say, after 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I guess I've ignored it now. And I'm like, oh, if somebody walked in right now, they'd be like, can anyone hear this humming? Or am I the only one who can hear it right now? And it just really goes to show what sheep we all are.
Much like how we all persist against the gentle hum of fascism. Claire, do you have anything to recommend this week?
Yes, I watched a movie last night.
Which one?
It's called Passages by Ira Sachs. It's like a love triangle between a gay couple and a straight woman.
Okay.
It's French.
That sounds French.
I mean, I have to say, every single time you go, well, there's another perfect apartment. You know when sometimes there's one perfect apartment? Every scene was in the most perfect apartment you've ever seen. The most perfectly Parisian and French countryside apartments and homes you've ever seen. So that's beautiful to look at. And on top of that, if you guys are longtime listeners of the Clashly agenda, you know that we're still kicking and screaming in fury about what we were forced to look at with the materialists. And I think I've been really craving a genuine love triangle that explores the interiority of what it is to be alive. And I thought that this was a really beautifully done, nuanced film where everybody in it acted like a person, which I really appreciated.
That's amazing.
I think that's something that's really lacking from today's love-based mainstream movies, is sometimes people act in this way where you go, well, there's 4 people behaving in ways and for reasons that I've never seen 4 people act or come up against. So I really appreciated that movie. Something that we're also going to be discussing on the Patreon this week that I'm so excited about is the Netflix documentary Unknown Number about a high school girl that was cyberbullied and then the FBI got involved. You'll never guess who the culprit was. If you don't already know the answer, it's worth watching because it is shocking. I think if you've seen people discuss it online, there's not much beyond the reveal. That being said, there's a few moments that I'm really excited to talk about on the Patreon with Ashley.
Yay, I can't wait to discuss. I want to recommend, we've talked about it already on the Patreon, but I think in the same vein of movies where people talk like people and act like people, the movie Sorry Baby is one that I keep on thinking about since I saw it like a month or so ago. I think it's a well done movie and it's like fun and funny and sweet and it's intense, but not intense in a way where like the whole point of it is that it's intense. And then I also, if you're local, want to recommend the restaurant Mariscos El Submarino. It is a restaurant that I have been trying to get to for 2 years. They already had one in Jackson Heights that's been around for a long time, but it opened up in Greenpoint 2 years ago. And I have scheduled so many plans around trying to go there. Every time someone's like, hey, we should get dinner sometime, I'm like, great, next Wednesday at Mariscos El Submarino in Greenpoint. And somehow it's always foiled. It's been foiled so many times. I thought I'd never get to go. And I'm actually one to go eat somewhere alone whenever I feel like it. But something about like a vat of ceviche by myself felt sad. I kept on thinking, I think once I try this place, it'll be one of my favorite restaurants in the world. And guess what? I tried it. And I like being right about me because so often I'm wrong about me.
I think they also just opened one literally today in Clinton Hill. You don't have to be local to Ashley's specific apartment. You could be local to Zoran Mamdani's apartment or Claire Parker's apartment. So.
Totally. Should we get into this week's topics? Do you want to give a rundown?
Yeah, I'm so excited about what we're talking about here. This week, we are going into a couple of the articles that I think have captured a lot of our attention, starting up with the paparazzi fave, Zoe Kravitz and Harry Styles. We have some commentary on the way that they are being written and talked about. Second of all, we want to talk about Selena Gomez's mom, Mandy Tifi, and their joint venture.
Then we're going to be talking about an article that came out in Wired called The Baby Died, Whose Fault Is It? About a surrogacy experience that has gone quite violent. Oh, and we're also going to be talking about Sabrina Carpenter's album.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
So let's dive in. I have a couple things to talk about when it comes to Zoe Kravitz and Harry Styles.
First of all, did they have to wait in the line when they got La Industry Pizza?
We see Zoe Kravitz in Williamsburg a lot. We saw her once with Channing Tatum in a way where we walked around the block twice.
Yeah.
She must live on the, I don't want to get doxed her. Anyway.
I also saw her once when I was walking Bug.
Okay, so if you guys have not been under a rock, if you've been on your phone, Harry Styles, Zoe Kravitz, they've been seen everywhere from Rome to Williamsburg, to the 2 most important cultural hubs in America.
Yeah.
She is on the tail end of a giant promotional scheme for her movie Caught Stealing, right, with Austin Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say, one of the things I believe, and if you are a celebrity listening, take heed. If you're doing promo, specifically the kind of like TikTok and Instagram native promotion, you have to be wearing a t-shirt that says what you're promoting, because the amount of times I have seen a celebrity and been like, they're really in the news, and then gone, what? They just had a movie come out? Why didn't anybody tell me? I thought they just really had a hot take to say on the subway.
I thought that they just wanted to go on Call Her Daddy.
Yeah, I thought they just were getting some stuff off their chest. I didn't know that they had worked on a film that they wanted me to watch. They should have told me.
They were up early, so they said, good morning, America. I'll stop by the show.
You have to assume everything is being clipped and they're clipping out the boring part, which is your promotion. And you have to start just wearing what you're promoting. Anyway, so she's on the tail end of this promotional stunt for her movie. And she has recently been seen with Harry Styles a couple of times, all the time. So TMZ reported just the other day, Harry Styles, Zoe Kravitz were just friends with benefits. The internet may have lost its mind over Harry Styles and Zoe Kravitz getting together, but the stars are keeping it cool and casual, TMZ has learned. Sources familiar with the situation tell TMZ the singer and the actress are merely hooking up, defining their relationship as friends with benefits type arrangement. Here's why this is crazy to me. The very next day, they were seen at like San Ambrose in the West Village with her dad. Can you imagine introducing your dad to somebody you're just fucking? This is what I always have to remember. The people who are famous for a reason, is because they know how to use each other. And I feel like in the conversation of PR relationships, maybe it's completely fake a la Pam and Liam Neeson, but I do believe, like, why wouldn't people that hot who are holding hands end up fucking?
When I first saw confirmed situationship, yeah, I guess everyone and everything is in a confirmed situationship. What does that even mean?
Yeah, the whole point of a situation is that nothing's confirmed.
I think that there are a couple factors at play here. One, I bet you Harry Styles already knew Lenny Kravitz. They probably shop at the same pants store. I think that there's a chance that the dad and Harry Styles are like independently friends. And so then for Zoe Kravitz and Harry Styles to be independently friends, they said, well, let's just all hang out. There's a chance of that. She maybe wasn't introducing her dad to Harry Styles. They were just having a standard gab sesh.
Maybe Lenny and Harry were going to chat anyway. And he said, hey, Zoe, do you want to come?
Yeah, maybe he said, oh, I've got a coffee this morning in the West Village with Lenny Kravitz. Oh, that's your dad. Do you want to come? Yeah. The other thing is I want to applaud my friend Zoe.
Sure.
My neighbor.
Yeah.
For bringing back hard launching nothing. I think that I personally have had a lot of frustration in the dating world with the way that defining the relationship has led to such a pressure, the way that people are so petrified to have any kind of like emotional stake in someone that they don't definitely intend to spend the rest of their life with. Right now, people are so afraid that admitting that you're dating means that you have to move in together, that you have to get married, that you have like every step of dating is a step to decide if you want to keep dating. And the fact that she's like, hey man, no harm, no foul. What we're doing right now is hooking up. Will it be more? Will it be less? Who cares? There's nothing to worry our pretty little heads about because they've got such pretty little heads.
I also do want to get back to the PR idea of she is promoting a movie. He's like always promoting nail polish, I think.
Yeah.
I can imagine the nail polish business is booming recently. I haven't heard a lot about it. When we talk about PR and we go, is it real? Is it not real? That's such a binary that we need to get away from. In the same way that when two of your fave influencers do like a combined TikTok and you're like, wait, are they friends? I don't know. They're hanging out. And they know how to turn all hanging out into content. I think like two people like Zoe and Harry who have played the fame game so well, they're just very open to letting a situationship be photographed in a way that like I personally would want to keep my private life private, but they don't. And that's why they're successful and I'll never be.
Yeah, I don't think that Zoe Kravitz has really expressed any interest in keeping her private life private. Mm-hmm. And when she does, we don't know about it. Yeah. It's private. I'm sure she's like done things that we don't know about. And that's the point of them, is that we don't know.
But God bless. Keep hooking up. I wonder what Taylor thinks. She's sending her exes baby gifts or whatever.
Yeah, she said, you know what? You guys never go out of style.
Last week, The Cut put out an article, What Happened at Wondermind? Selena Gomez and her mother, Mandy Tifi.
It's a tough name.
I guess I keep wanting to call her Toothy.
I know. I keep on wanting to be like, oh, have you just been to the dentist? You're looking quite Tifi.
Anyway, Selena and Mandy flipped their mental health journeys into a buzzy startup. It all fell apart. Do you remember Wondermind?
Yeah, I guess one of the things I'd push back with in this article is that anyone knew about this.
I think when it came out, it was buzzy, and I think I vaguely remember it was like worth $1 billion right out the gate. But something that this article rightfully points out is
what does that mean?
Well, that and also that Selena Gomez actually is constantly promoting her mental health awareness campaigns, but not necessarily through Wondermind, through the Rare charity. Through like what Rare Beauty gives away at its charitable donations.
I love that she's constantly promoting that she's aware of mental health.
We have to remember it.
Mental health, never forget.
Where were you when we crashed out? So for those of you who have not read the article, it kind of follows the very difficult relationship between Selena and Mandy. Mandy was a teen mom who had Selena in Texas. She herself wanted to be an actress. Very quickly, she started pushing Selena into acting, and we use that word deliberately as somebody who has read a lot of celebrity memoirs. There is no such thing as a child-led project in the same way that if a child drove a car, you wouldn't be like, yeah, but the child's dream was to drive a car. You'd go, well, the adult's job is to say, no, you can't drive a car. You're 7. When a child has $1 million business behind them, that's not the child's choice. When a 7-year-old says, I want to be on TV, the adult still has to like choose whether or not they do so.
An adult can say, let's do community theater until you turn 18.
At 7 years old, Selena Gomez was picked to be on Barney, Mandy Tifi. I think at the time she was not yet Tifi.
Yeah.
I think none of those puppies had grown in yet.
She still had her baby teeth.
She was still Mandy Gummy. We're allowed to make fun of it because it's not even her maiden name. She chose it. She became our manager. They moved out to LA. When Selena got Wizards of Waverly Place, she became a hit. Then, of course, she had Selena and the Scene or something.
Selena Gomez and the Scene, her band. And also important to note, Mandy was Selena's manager. Yes. And later, her husband, Bri Tifi, was also her manager.
Girls love a stepdad.
You know how you can trust a stepdad to manage a young girl's career?
They become their manager. And Selena, as you guys I'm sure are aware, blows up. She becomes super successful. Her music is hitting. Wizards of Waverly Place is hitting. And she's dating Justin Bieber, which makes her the ultimate tabloid fodder.
I mean, think of the exact years. Since at least 2017, she's been the most followed person on Instagram.
Wow. So at some point, she ends up breaking up with her mom. She kicks her out as her manager. They then goes through what seems like a tough period where they are not talking. It seems like Mandy is talking directly to the paparazzi and talking about Selena on her Instagram, which only, believe it or not, that doesn't help to fix their relationship. In 2020, they do find a common bond. Selena was hospitalized both because of lupus and then because of her mental health problems. She went to outpatient treatment for what she later came out as with bipolar disorder that was partially exacerbated by her chemo and lupus treatment. So they have had troubles. It seems like when Selena started working on her mental health and came out about her mental health publicly, they bridged a gap there. They started speaking again. As they keep quoting, they learned how to speak to each other with healthy boundaries, which when you have to say it over and over again about your mom means you don't.
What a clarification, you know? We're not just talking. We're talking with healthy boundaries.
I think to set the narrative straight, which is so funny because it reminds me of what the Cyrus family just did recently when they sat down with the cut to be like, we're actually all really good now.
We're so good now. All we had to do is realize that our mom didn't necessarily, she had our best interest at heart. It's just everything she said contributed to our worst interest.
So something you do when things are all good and better for real is you sit down with a journalist to control the narrative and let people publicly know. The new word on the street is that we're really, really good. We figured it out.
Yay. Okay. Congratulations, guys. I'm happy for you.
So who did they sit down with? None other than Danielle Pearson, who at the time was the creator and CEO of The Newsette, which was this huge youth dominating newsletter.
Later, the three of them got together and decided to create a startup about mental health and mental health awareness called Wondermind. They launched in April 2022 and raised $5 million in their first round of funding. Their goal was to create a mental health ecosystem, providing tools that matched those that were offered at an inpatient facility that cost $1,500 a day. So they were planning to create this app that had mental health tools. They wanted to create podcasts and media that would like bring awareness to people's mental health struggles.
It was like to normalize and democratize, to destigmatize and to democratize, which is a pretty fucking lofty goal.
Through all mediums, essentially.
Except for direct hands-on help from a medically licensed professional.
Yeah, but
and
that's...
all other ways, you know how sometimes you
Can I say, Claire? You're not democratizing.
What if Farmville fixed your schizophrenia? Has anyone thought to do that yet? So the way they were dividing it was essentially they were using Pearson's like newsletter medium, and essentially she was going to be in control of all written media. So she was putting out newsletters, she was selling articles, and then Mandy was going to be in control in LA of all other media, i.e. a podcast that she was going to helm, movies, books, TV. So we have created a production company essentially that is supposed to fix mental health problems. And they kept calling the Reese Witherspoon book club as their comp. Because if you don't know, Reese Witherspoon created a book club that she essentially created this vertical of like, she would go to an author and buy the rights to the movie by offering to promote you on her book club. So what's happening is you're almost automatically becoming a bestseller. Then once there's a bestseller created, now she has the rights to that movie. So she's like creating a demand that then she satiates with her own film. It's a perfect business. She ended up selling it to one of the BlackRock, Blackstone. I won't learn the difference. I'm sorry. I'll learn a lot. The buck stops there.
Which is the one that you grill meat on?
Neither. Which is the one that they outsource like private war doing from?
Both.
Kind of, but Blackwater. Any hoodles. So they kept being like, we want to be Reese's book club, but without the book club and with the obsession with anxiety.
Yes.
And one of the reasons they thought they'd be successful at this is because Mandy Tifi did...
Leave it.
Mandy Tifi had read the book 13 Reasons Why, bought the rights to it, and then I think that was a very successful show on Netflix. Yes. I personally am always citing things to be my 13th reason why, like when a city bike dock is full. Or when I don't like my hair.
They're trying to develop snacks, apps, movies,
TVs, podcasts, websites. And guess what? At first, it's valued at $1 gazillion. Within a year, it's named one of the seventh quickest growing private companies, which led me to ask this question.
What does that mean?
Well, I know what it means.
No, I know, but what does that mean?
What were the metrics? Who saw the numbers?
Yeah.
How well researched was that decision?
Like, what does it mean to be a quickest growing company? Because I do think that if you have an influx of cash from like Series A funding plus the face of Selena Gomez, you'd be like, well, that's a fact. Like yesterday it didn't exist and today it has $5 million in Selena Gomez. That's growing really between yesterday and today. That's plus several thousand%.
Whoa. That happened fast.
Right. If you extend that over 5 years and nothing gets done, you're like, well, what does quickest growing mean?
And then you divide it by the amount of years that Mandy Tifi knew Selena Gomez. And you're like, well, actually, this has been like 26 years in the making.
Right.
That's like so slow. Imagine I told you I've been starting this company for 26 years and we just got the website. You'd be like, you'll never get anywhere. So beyond the fact that you're right and asking like, what does it mean to be on a list? Does that mean you asked to be on the list and they wanted to go to Selena's show, so they said yes, you could be on the list? Or does it mean they looked at the numbers? What does it mean to be a private company that wants to democratize mental health without a doctor's help? Do you know what I mean? If like your whole concept is we're gonna figure out a way to help the most people the cheapest, why would you suddenly be worth $200 million? It seems like the idea that like you'd be a private company who's worth so like we're about to get all so rich by helping the most people for the least amount of money.
I mean, if you look at a business like BetterHelp and you go, they're really helping people better. As many people as possible for as cheap as they can, and look at the way.
And wouldn't you say you're looking around and noticing that we've had the most mentally healthy people of all time?
I think I look around outside and I go, yeah,
People
we're communicating with boundaries. I mean, look at any TikTok comment section. You tell me BetterHelp hasn't made its mark on society. One of the things that was kind of a comforting safety net, I think, for people joining this startup was the Selena Gomez effect. And so people were joining this company saying, I mean, with Selena Gomez at the helm, this doesn't feel like a surefire failure. It feels like a legitimate business. They have 2 offices in New York, LA. At that point, Danielle Pearson had a reputable newsletter. It looked like a real company.
They had everything you might want in a mental health facility besides anybody who knew what the fuck they were talking about it when it came to mental health. So you may ask, like, what is the qualification of these people? And a lot of what they say is, well, like Mandy and Selena have both struggled.
Yeah.
But you know when you go into a mental hospital and you go, the patients will fix me.
The patient becomes the master. And then you graduate, you go home. They give you a golden grippy sock.
I do think that what Selena did was so helpful. I do think when people come out and are honest and public about what they've struggled with, it does help other people feel less alone. It normalizes it. It does like start conversations. The idea that those are the people who should be building the apps that fix you for profit. A couple bridges further than I would have gone. Very quickly, it seems like maybe Mandy Tifi.
Just keep saying it however you want.
Tifi makes no sense. It sounds like what a baby would say. It's not the way it's not. It makes no sense to me.
I'm not fighting you. I'm on board.
You want me to say the E sound and then go right back to E?
Yeah.
I'm not a trapezer.
I feel like to describe me, you might say she's a bit Tifi. And you know what? I had braces for a long time and I'll take it with a badge of honor.
Can I just call her Mandy? I know you don't like that she goes by Mandy as a full-fledged adult, but to that I'd say I don't know that she knows she's a full-fledged adult.
Can I say I actually think Mandy is a much more adult thing than Tifi? I wish she was Amanda, and yet we'll move forward with Mandy.
Knox took it. There can only be one Amanda publicly.
Yeah, especially when she's out here killing people.
So unfortunately, right away, it turns out Tifi and Pearson, 2 people who want a lot of credit for building something that they seem to have not built yet, there were tensions. Right now, Pearson has left the company and started a new company where she gives young women VC opportunities. She's one of the self-described richest, most successful VCers there is.
Oh, I love it when a VCer gets to proclaim themselves.
According to the employees, the relationship between Tifi and Pearson was openly tense, even hostile from the company's first days. Mandy and Danny didn't trust each other, says one staffer. Conversations were so contentious that Tifi's assistant and others says would turn on white noise machine to dampen Tifi's raised voice. In a comment, a representative for Tifi called this a gross distortion. When the PR person can't even be like, no, that's bad.
Okay, so they break up. Danny's on her own. Mandy Tifi is now the sole leader of this company, and they all thought that she would be bringing in another co-CEO. It turns out that is not the case. Now Mandy is in charge of everything. Selena Gomez is kind of on the advisory council.
Mandy herself kept describing the company as having nothing to do with Selena. She's like, this isn't Selena's company. And everyone's like, okay, well, it feels like it's Selena's money.
Everyone's kind of like, well, it seems like one of the things that we needed to get this off the ground was that it was Selena's company.
Without Selena, no one was going to Mandy and going, do you have any really great ideas about how to fix the mental health crisis?
And Mandy, meanwhile, has all these projects that she is just not getting off the ground, and she insists on being heavily a part of everything. So nothing can move forward without her approval, yet she'll go weeks without looking at anything. At one point, she was sent a script in 2023 that they needed like a final round of notes on, and she didn't send it for a full year.
She'd go missing. And then when she was in the office, it seemed like her behavior was erratic. Sometimes she was spending days sleeping on her couch, not going home to change her clothes or shower. They said they would look in and they would just watch her watch Schitt's Creek. They also, one staffer claims she was in the room when she snorted lines of what seemed to be Ritalin. She constantly had somebody come in. She just, talk about Tifi. They described a nurse that came in to give her an IV drip of Benadryl every night that had no teeth. Tifi, no Tifi.
Only one Tifi in this room.
Balance out, Mandy. They brought in a no teeth nurse.
So at one point when tensions are kind of at a high, Tifi is spending the night in the office and starts texting her staff erratically, being like, there is a man trying to break into the office right now. And everyone is like checking the Ring camera. One of the staffers goes there and finds a cop on her way and is like, cop, come with me. There's a break-in happening. And they get there and no one can find any evidence on the security cameras. No one can find any evidence anywhere that anyone was trying to break in. And Mandy insists that night someone was breaking in.
It gave me a new appreciation for the PR people, the way that they had to like turn everything.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, she was sleeping in her office for days at a time without showering and changing her clothes. And her PR person's like, oh, yeah, so working so fucking hard that she never even went home. And you're saying she's not equipped to be a CEO? And I was like, what a
genius.
And I love that just the idea of being like, I hear it.
Girl boss.
I hear the whispering. Listen closer, idiot.
So at this point, there's not really money coming in, it seems. Most of the money coming in is just Selena Gomez, like, padding everyone's salaries. And then at one point, a message goes out that they're like, yeah, you're probably not going to get paid this week, but maybe next week.
In the meantime, Mandy is saying things that seem very inappropriate to people, like, we're paying for this out of our own pocket, and if we change our minds, we'll be fine forever, but you'll be fucked. Like, you're lucky we're doing this at all. I mean, and this is going from just the year before they were valued at $100 million. So they're kind of like, what the hell is happening? They're firing people. Things are not coming through that she claimed were coming through. It's getting weird. In the meantime, they're like, oh, Selena's not a part of this at all. Selena will come in and check on her mom, but it seems like there's no interventions.
And they've also realized that Selena and her mom are not good. They said it seemed very intense and not friendly.
I have to say, they really threw Selena on the bus here. They're like, it turns out she wasn't as big a part of this company as we thought. At one point, we had a company party, and she came by for a few minutes, was obviously already drunk, had a martini, and then said, I'm leaving soon anyway. I'm going to go have sex. And I'm like, well, let our girl live. Of all the things she's done, that seems like the least worst.
Okay, why'd she have to come to her mom's stupid business party?
When she had a booty call at home waiting for her. She can't get fucked. She's a billionaire. We're not going to let our female billionaires get fucked.
Who, if not her, then who? Who gets to get fucked in this America? I feel like the Wondermind people kind of throw Selena under the bus. I feel like the writer does a good job of kind of backing it off. I mean, obviously she included that piece, but she is like, obviously Selena created this company to get her mom out of her way.
They think pre-company, Selena was very aware that her mom was not mentally fit enough to run a company. And then they're like, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. Obviously, she was spiraling and struggling. They said she was always out of it. If you take Benadryl IV drips, it can be helpful if you have like allergies. But if you're taking them every night, it'll fuck you up. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, she clearly was like on drugs, self-medicating, struggling with her mental health, behaving erratically, not showing up, yelling at people. She would often like lash out at people for trying to get anything done in her absence, but then not answering. And so I think one of the big questions that this article asks is like, well, whose fault is it? A lot of these employees are looking at Selena going, she knew that her mom was not well enough to run a company. Why didn't she pull her? Why didn't she get her help? Why did she not bail us out? They have a lot of questions about what Selena was on the hook for. And I guess I understand it's really hard out there professionally, but if you are looking at your boss going, my boss has been gone for 6 weeks, came home and screamed at me for trying to do something in her absence and is now like screaming at the TV, watching Schitt's Creek and doing lines of Ritalin up and then Benadryl down, like, are you supposed to be like, and Selena Gomez didn't even tell me that was bad?
I mean, that's how I felt about it. I guess I don't think that this article entirely absolves Selena. I think that there's a lot of questions about what her responsibility is. I feel low to none. Like, you guys are adults too. I get that her mom was not mentally sound and she should have known that. Mm-hmm. But at what point is it another mentally ill, like she's also mentally ill. So like, what is her responsibility for like managing her mother? And I think that in LA especially, I think it could feel really exciting to have this role at a company that has these seemingly safeguarded aspects in place to say like, okay, the woman who's running this office is kind of the launch pad for 13 Reasons Why, a hugely successful Netflix show. Selena Gomez is an investor and like the face of this company. There's a lot of things that seem like they should be going well. And yet I don't know that it has to go well. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just also there was like I think the 13 Reasons Why can't she then get another TV show up and going? That other woman, Danielle Pearson, did successfully run a website and article and like content business. Why couldn't she do it a second time? It's not Selena's fault that girl herself was kind of like, you know what I mean? I don't know. There was just a lot of, but I think that that's what entrepreneurs do. Every time you go into an investor meeting and pitch yourself, you're pitching the potential. You don't know for sure that it's taken off.
Yeah. I mean, Elizabeth Holmes, maybe she could have had that blood be fancy.
I do think a lot of scientists told her abjectly no. But maybe, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people, like, that is kind of what starting a business is you don't start a business and be like, everything I already have is what I promise. You promise what you don't have yet, and people invest in you. And it's not on those people to come to you personally and say, hey, get out of here before you get pushed out.
I see how it's very demoralizing to have hope for, like, an exciting new company and then, like, watch it slowly unhinge around you. That isn't necessarily... Selena Gomez was a contributing factor. It's not on Selena Gomez.
I also feel like they thought she should personally pay everybody. Like, the company folded.
I mean, and she was personally paying everybody.
Yeah. Ultimately, I want to call her Mary Tifi. Mandy Tifi still has the company. She says as soon as a few weeks ago, she'd be up and running with the app that she said would be done 4 years ago.
And also, what does this app do?
Well, one of their ideas was to have like a late night meeting place where you could talk to other suicidal people. She's still coming out with a snack. She's still coming out with an app.
Yay. You look at Mandy Tifi and you're like, yeah, what fighting chance did Selena Gomez have?
I will say, and you look at Taylor Swift, her friend, and I do think a lot of Taylor Swift's success has come from the fact that she has two parents that did not need her financially and seem to be like relatively healthy and normal. Like, as within the, like, who's perfect among us, but they seem reasonably stable.
Yeah.
And I do think that has taken her a very far way.
Next, we're diving into a story we saw much discussion about on social media. It's in Wired, and it's called "The Baby Died, Whose Fault Is It?" Cindy B is not supposed to be telling me this story. There's a confidentiality clause and a restraining order in place. Cindy B is a venture capitalist in her 40s who decided to have children via surrogate with her husband. They decided to have what are called
Twibblings.
Twibblings.
Which is a new fun term, which means that you're going to get two surrogates to have two babies who, will, in theory, will be at the same age like twins, but because they're not, they're just siblings. The brain drain of international countries comes to San Francisco so they can entrepreneur new worse phrases.
Okay, so first off, there's a confidentiality clause involved in the surrogacy agreement. And at this point, a restraining order has been filed against the surrogate to Cindy B. I definitely found the confidentiality clause curious. Both parties agreed to keep the details private and away from the media. This is at the beginning of the surrogacy agreement. And I was like, what media? Who cares about Cindy B? You know, I actually went to high school with someone named Cindy B, and she was so pretty. I think that's important for my context in this story. I had a hard time separating Cindy B from Cindy B.
You were just like, but she's so pretty and I liked her so much in high school.
And I said, and she literally married someone from our high school who I was friends with. They're really cute together and they have kids. What's she doing buying kids out of other women's wombs? Okay, so this story comes to us through a confidentiality clause and a restraining order.
In spite of, yeah.
In spite of. It bashed its way through to documents, which is why I famously don't believe in documents.
And I think that that's part of the telling of the story is that looking at the power discrepancy between who has the money and who tends to not have money in a surrogate situation. Normally people are surrogates because of the financial benefit, and normally the people who can hire a surrogate is somebody who has like
a lot
tens
of money.
to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already this imbalance of somebody's body's on the line, whereas somebody's like extra income is on the line. Often you don't put your body on the line for the fun of the game, unless you're Steve-O.
It is really, I think, crucial in the telling of this story that this story was brought by Cindy B to this writer at Wired.
Which is exactly what you'd be concerned about with an NDA, that it really only protects the person who can't afford to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Cindy B, who, as Ashley said, in her 40s, she met a man. She had previously already frozen her eggs. She was long prepared to just use a surrogate whenever the time came that she was ready. The time comes, they hire a company. There are many. And something interesting is that only New York State requires surrogacy agencies to be licensed. So everywhere else that you are hiring an agency to handle these incredibly delicate and sometimes life or death matters are people who have just determined themselves to be competent.
Yeah. So American surrogacy is an enormous industry, taking in approximately $5 billion in 2024. Mm-hmm. Although America is the world leader in surrogacy, it's also the developed nation with the highest maternal mortality rate and one of the highest stillbirth rates, a situation described by many as a public health crisis.
On top of that, compared to natural conception, carrying a genetically unrelated fetus more than triples the risk of severe, potentially deadly conditions, a statistic surrogates are rarely given. I think the surrogacy question and the rights of surrogates and the babies and the parents, the genetic parents, it brings forth like our obsession with fetus health and the way that we see the human beings who carry these babies and these fetuses as secondary. I think there's a lot of consideration about how viable it is for a fetus to have a surrogate carry the baby. It turns out a lot of surrogates are not told about how dangerous it can be for the surrogate.
And in this story, they use, I guess, what are industry terms, IP, intended parents, and GC, gestational carriers. So this statistic about how dangerous childbirth in America has become means that people who have the means can opt out of carrying children and outsource it onto people who do not have the means, GCs, people who, without this information, you don't just become a surrogate because you're like, I don't know, that's an interesting way to make money on the side. A lot of times it's because of a financial need. These are people who are
putting their bodies on the line without all of the information that could be given to them.
Yes.
Because the people that do tend to have this information are these agencies who benefit from having the surrogate sign up.
Right. So another thing that's deeply disturbing about this article, and obviously comes from Cindy B's phrasing of the situation, is that the embryo that we are discussing today was her only male embryo, her sole
potential son.
And to not have a son, I guess we still live in like king's times. I guess there are still kings, but it like really, every time they talked about every time the phrase her only male embryo came up, I was like, oh my God, freaks. Cindy B has been with her husband since they met in 2016. They decided to have children. She is in her mid-40s at this point and decided that the safest thing to do would be to have a surrogate. And again, they wanted two, so they were on the hunt for two surrogates to have twinblings. Twiblings.
You dropped the N.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that I didn't get that very real word right.
It just comes so naturally to me. I don't know why. Tweefy, I couldn't do.
With all my teeth, I can really nail teefy, but I can't get twiblings.
This one, it lodged in. I said, well, that's been crowdsourced. So they find a surrogate. They call her Rebecca Smith. She's a former professional athlete, very tall, a single mother, which is something that B says she's willing to overlook, which is like, why?
I mean, this article is so disturbing for so many reasons, but especially the way they talk about Rebecca Smith like a horse. She's like tall and athletic and unfortunately a single mother, like most horses.
So Smith says she had signed up to be a surrogate because she had seen her friends struggle with fertility. She herself had a good first pregnancy, and she did have an idea that she was going to use the money to pay off her student loans and become debt-free. B lives in San Francisco, where all of the worst venture capitalists in the world congregate. Rebecca Smith lives in Virginia. In Virginia, you're actually not allowed to hire a surrogate, but they can get around this by reimbursing her for the tune of $45,000.
I guess that feels so low to put your life on the line.
I guess people do it for free all the time.
That's so
Every
true.
time they have a baby, they're doing it at cost, actually. At a cost.
Yeah, but then it's like their family.
So they met. Everything seems great. They feel very compatible. They're having fun. Good news. The surgery takes. B actually flies Rebecca and her son out for a week and a half. Everything seems great. The pregnancy's going well. B is texting her constantly. And here's the question is like, when it's your baby or when it's your fetus, you want it to be healthy. You want the environment to be right. So it seems like B is giving a lot of direction about what kind of vitamins she wants Rebecca to be taking all the time.
Yeah, and it seems that B is texting kind of an insane amount. However, I think that this didn't seem as much of a red flag when they were on good terms.
It's fun. I feel like I imagine even though you're not planning on keeping the baby, like being pregnant is such a huge thing to be going through that you want to be talking about it all the time because like every minute something new is happening and it is exciting and it is like I can see very much why people have a baby with a partner. Like it's fun to have someone else just as invested as you are.
Yeah. Another major factor in this surrogacy deal is that the pregnancy bills, like the medical bills themselves, Smith's insurance company would be taking care of them. So Smith had insurance through her job that would be covering her pregnancy-related medical needs.
However, in 2023, halfway through the pregnancy, Smith gets a better job. B has been using a surrogacy Facebook group of support that has both intended parents and surrogates in there.
And people in the surrogate industry in other capacities who are trying to get you to purchase their services, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's like someone who sells cribs being in an expectant mothers group.
Yes.
There are like insurance people in surrogacy groups.
So the Art Risk Solutions, an insurance agency, replied suggesting that B double-checked whether Smith's new policy would cover the pregnancy. Outreach like this wasn't uncommon. The Facebook groups often teamed with industry professionals peddling their wares. They offered to look into it, this Art Risk company, and sure enough, they go, she's not going to be covered. Her new insurance won't cover the pregnancy. B freaks out, calls the initial agency being like, you were on the hook for this. You said you'd look into it. And they're like, we did, and we will again. And we keep finding that they will cover it.
Art Risk is like, you have to hire us to be backup insurance because her insurance company is going to fuck you guys over and you're going to be saddled with insane medical bills. And so B is like, okay, well, our surrogacy agency has to pay you. And the agency is like, we're not paying this random company. The insurance is real.
So this starts like the beginning of a spiral of B being completely out of control. A few weeks later, Smith feels liquid between her legs. She goes to the hospital, worried it's amniotic fluid. They're like, don't worry, it's not. Suddenly, B's lawyer contacts Smith and is like, we want you to sign new papers that would effectively give them control over her body. And she's kind of like, well, why would you want that? What, are you going to kill me to get this baby out? And I think the answer is yes. They would have been like, whatever it takes to protect this baby. The baby's more important than you because we know the baby. We don't know you.
It's so funny because I actually do know her and not the baby, but whatever.
So B replies, after your ER visit, I have tons of questions. For example, was it due to the stress of Friday's insurance discussion? If not, what can we do to prevent such episodes so the baby can grow to full term, et cetera, et cetera.
B also finds out at an appointment that the baby is at 30%, is in the 30th percentile size-wise for its gestational age, and is also freaking out, being like, why isn't my baby average? What are you doing?
Or above average.
Or above average. What are you doing that is impeding on the growth of my baby?
They're also like, well, you're tall. Shouldn't our baby be tall? I don't think that that's how it works.
Exactly. No, I don't think so.
So Smith goes on full-time bed rest, which is a very difficult thing for a woman to do. I don't know if you've ever just been stuck in bed. It's tedious, and she has weeks to go. She also has a son at home who she misses. B starts wondering if she's doing this as like essentially an insurance scam. She starts wondering, are you doing this to claim lost wages? Like, what's your motive? Why aren't you just home? Which is an interesting perspective from the woman who's like panicking, being like
you should be monitored at every second of every day. And as soon as the surrogate, it's like, okay, I'll be monitored at every second of every day. She's like, well, wait, why?
She starts saying that because B hadn't been notified about the job shift, that this is a breach of contract, and B is now saying she will no longer cover any insurance bills or lost wages. This situation reveals one of the fundamental imbalances of surrogacy. When a surrogate breaks contract, her IPs can stop paying her and stop paying the medical bills for the pregnancy. But if an IP breaks contract, say by sharing the GC's private information online or withholding compensation, a GC typically has to hire a lawyer. No matter what, the IPs get the baby at the end. Anything else would be considered baby selling and human trafficking. You can't say, well, I'll hold on to the baby until you pay me up. You can't keep the baby on layaway, so to speak, because that's human trafficking. However, they get to stop paying you, and like, I guess your body doesn't have any inherent rights.
Yay to be a woman. And this is not something that I think is expressly clear to any surrogate ever.
She's in Virginia, but you have to think what's happening to the women on an international scale. A lot of people go internationally to do the surrogacy. And then what happens when you're like not protected by
anything?
Smith
has been on bed rest in the hospital at 30 weeks. She wakes up. The nurse comes in to do morning checks and finds that the baby has no heartbeat. She's rushed into a C-section, and baby Leon is delivered stillborn.
Meanwhile, Smith also has lost a ton of blood and has gone through a trauma of having carried this baby, having lost the baby, and being, there's a huge toll taken on Smith.
I mean, because it was a placental abruption, she bled out a ton and very nearly died. So B flies across the country immediately and essentially refuses to speak to Smith and starts blaming Smith and insisting upon receiving all of Smith's hospital records from before the pregnancy till now to figure out what went wrong here, and insists that this was a preventable death and that Smith killed her child.
What shocked Bee when she arrived at the hospital was the joy she felt with her stillborn child. He was a white boy, just like his dad. He had light hair, a cut near his left knee, and a hard-looking fingernails. Bee photographed Leon in a white gown and diaper holding a blue crocheted heart.
Bee starts looking into what happened here, the placental abrasion, etc., and insists that it was things that Smith was doing.
What she did is hire a psychic to get answers. As she tells it, they all blame Smith. One suggested that the ex-boyfriend of Smith's had turned against her baby, Leon. Another claimed to see traumas on Smith's belly and said she was clearly having rough sex. He warned, she has something to hide. When Smith refused to release her medical records unless non-pregnancy information was redacted, Bee sought its confirmation that Smith was hiding crucial details. She then hires a private investigator to follow Smith around, who sees that sometimes her ex-boyfriend, the father of her baby, sleeps over. This man is black. She suggests that they were having rough sex and that this man had felonies and she should have been alerted that she was living with a former felon who's done prison time. This is, of course, extremely racist.
And B, this whole time, is posting obsessively in these surrogacy support groups, kind of searching for approval and validation from these other people who've undergone surrogacy, surrogates, and intended parents who are all yes, what you've been through is awful. This person was out to get you. Everyone's kind of just affirming her because it's hard to tell from the way she's presenting information that she's making it all up.
Well, not only that, but I think when you're in a Facebook group, you're hardly in a room full of medically trained people who have all the information. Closed Facebook groups like this do not allow for a ton of discourse. Mm-hmm. I imagine she's finding herself in groups of people who also feel wronged, who also want to have absolute control over another woman's body to protect their unborn fetus or their unborn embryo. She is getting feedback from people who, should they be in her position, want to make sure everybody's giving them the same feedback. I also think it brings on another interesting point. The article says, many stillbirth advocates believe that American doctors do not take the risk of stillbirth seriously, that the standards of care are often woefully inadequate, and that calculations about when to deliver a baby ignore risk factors. After losing a baby, women are told, as B was, that these things, quote, just happen. Stillbirths take about 21,000 American children per year, more than guns, car accidents, sudden infant death syndrome, cancer, and fires combined. When you think about the group of people who are employing surrogates or hiring surrogates, it's often tech advanced, highly educated, coastal people who have income. And I think that these are people, when we look at the redrawing of political groups, I think this is a group of people who you might have 10 years ago assumed were liberal Democrats, mm-hmm. who were pro-abortion rights. But I think as the science gets further along about surrogacy and the abortion rights keeps heating up and women keep losing rights, to lose this group of women to the fetal rights group mm-hmm. is gonna have implications that hurt women with carrying their own fetus who want to have an abortion, don't want to have an abortion, want to have medical rights. You know what I mean? The more we get into the weeds on the science of what we can and can't do, it's scary to think that a live adult human women's bodies are going to be undermined for the rights of somebody else, what somebody else is saying about the thing happening inside you.
And we're seeing that all the time with medicine right now is why believe doctors when I have this statistic here that I, as someone who went to college, have a different interpretation of.
And I also think that this does get to the problem of there have been giant holes in the medical world that have left people fucked over that then are exploited by people who want to strip women's rights, who want to strip vaccine access. You know what I mean? The problem is when there are 21,000 stillbirths and that is the number one killer of American babies, and the doctors are not doing more to look into it, and you are just told I don't know, it just happens. You are going to go, well, if they don't have the answers, who does?
Exactly.
And I do think maternal health in America is not taken seriously, specifically for black women and women of color. And the more that happens, the more the American medical system is going to push people to the fringe, which then ends up being co-opted by the right, which then ends up hurting women overall.
Yeah, because I don't want to diminish that is a gigantic number, and to lose a child, to lose a baby, because at the point where we're calling it a stillbirth, you're pretty far along. This is a deeply traumatic experience. And I think that to have a doctor say it just happens sometimes, like, I don't want to diminish that that's traumatizing.
I mean, and that's the thing of the story is Rebecca Smith, the surrogate, was also personally very upset about it. Like, she had also carried this baby. She loved this baby. She tried her best. She put her body on the line. She was bedridden trying to keep this baby alive. It also hurt her. But there's no consideration from B about the surrogate's feelings. Like, nobody wants a baby that far along to die.
Exactly. So B has hired a private investigator to prove negligence from Smith. B has filed FBI reports against Smith, has texted photos of the stillborn baby to Smith's child, which Smith is at this point traumatized from having lost this baby at 7 months, and now has this, I guess I don't want to call them friends, but like a person that she used to... A person of support, yeah. A former person of support is going quite literally scorched to earth, trying to get her fired from her job. B has accused her of fraud to her insurance company, so Smith is not getting reimbursed through insurance because there are all these reports of fraud against her. So
Smith now has all of this debt, plus like a group of insane Facebook women claiming that she should be in prison for life for murder and like doxed heavily. In the months after Leon died, B called the FBI 12 times, reported Smith, SAI, the hospital, and Clarity Escrow to more than a dozen state and federal regulators and numerous professional organizations. Launched a new round of her $30 million venture fund backed by Mark Andreessen and David Sachs, President Trump's AI crypto czar, on Leon's due date, posted Leon's ChatGPT written endorsement from heaven.
This was the craziest thing I've ever heard, actually.
Offered his eternal blessings for her work, created TikToks, Instagram Reels, Facebook posts, X threads, LinkedIn updates, and a website for her advocacy. Posted Smith's full name, photo, employer, mortgage license, son's first name, and a link to her address. Asked her husband again and again how it was possible that Smith had carried her son but felt nothing about his death.
So at this point, there's a little bit of discussion about B's mental health. She did have a psych consult from the surrogacy agency before becoming intended parents. But what does that mean when you have these unlicensed agencies who need surrogates to sign up for surrogacy and parents to sign up to purchase surrogacy?
There's also not like a set group of people that get to decide if you're fit or not. They go to a therapist who can sign you off. And if they say no, you can just go to another therapist. The therapists also say, these agencies aren't going to work with you again if you're somebody who says no. So if they want their money, they should say yes. And even if they go, this is a crisis, we have to say no, the money's not worth it, they'll just find somebody else who does want the money.
Yeah.
So I see both sides. On the one hand, biological parents have sex and, some of the craziest people in the world have babies. Some of the most fucked up people have babies. And yet that is like one human being to be given the medical right to another human being's life. Like, now there's two people at stake.
Anyway, so at one point, Smith is suicidal because of the way that B is torturing essentially everyone she's ever met. In 2024, she serves B with a restraining order, and B finds it ridiculous. She kidnapped and killed my son. I am the victim here, B told me repeatedly. Being a single mom, she said, doesn't give you the right to kill another son. You don't have that victim card to play. She was almost screaming when she said it. B explains over and over again her belief that surrogates hold all of the power.
She has now spent at this point like almost $100,000 trying to sue her surrogate.
Meanwhile, she has another active surrogacy pregnancy happening because of her goal of twiblings. So there is another woman who 6 months after Leon passes delivers a baby girl.
B says that this was like a perfect, amazing surrogate. Meanwhile, if you ask the surrogate what happened, her delivery ended in a hysterectomy.
Yeah, so there was another placental issue that happened. And when they delivered the baby, the placenta had grown too deep and they ended up having to take out her entire uterus.
The weirdest part was being awake while she was dying, she said. An emergency hysterectomy saved her life. She woke up 9 hours later, intubated in the ICU. To call that like a perfect experience is such an insane thing to say about a woman who almost died and then lost her uterus.
And another thing that is hugely important to note, the DNA of the placenta comes from the embryo.
B's family has a history of placenta problems. Both her mother and her sister had the issues that both of her surrogates had. She had medical knowledge that she did not pass along, despite passing along the medical implications. Mm-hmm. She could have said, once the first surrogate had a stillborn because of the placenta problem, she could have said, oh, this is an issue. Because of that placenta problem that she knew about, she allowed another woman to give birth to a baby that caused her hysterectomy. And it was like these surrogates are taking on other people's medical issues without their knowledge. A 2024 survey found that the natural conceived pregnancies carried about a 2% risk of several adverse maternal events. A surrogate pregnancy increases that to almost 8%. Nobody had talked to the surrogates about this risk.
During a Zoom hearing last December, B considered mercy. Perhaps Smith had suffered enough. Perhaps B had already achieved a form of justice. Inspired with grace, B said she made an offer. If Smith dropped the restraining order and allowed B to talk freely about her using her full name, B would not pursue criminal charges. Smith's lawyer refused. Can you imagine?
So far, B has worked with 9 different attorneys. She racked up almost $750,000 in legal bills in 2024, but paid less than half. They're all now about to sue B for not paying their legal fees. She says she can't pay them right now because she needs the cash she has on hand to retain a new lawyer.
She's also first kind of considered and delved into surrogacy through a VC world and network of people who view surrogacy as a very reasonable standard of childbirth. Mm-hmm. Like, these are a group of people who believe that we've innovated past having to carry children under any circumstances. You can just outsource it.
B tells me she's cash poor. Although B had an 8-figure net worth before Leon's death, most of it was a liquidated stakes in companies. She has rent to pay and childcare, her 6th live-in nanny. Anyway, so it ends with B being like, I don't know if I should use the rest of my money to get a second child or keep attacking Smith. I have to say, personally, I feel like surrogacy is one of the few situations where I'm truly like, I don't know. I see all sides. And I do think, especially in the environment where women's bodies are under such attack right now, where our personal rights are being attacked through the lens of the most important thing about you is the baby you can create, it's worth considering. I also can only imagine what the women internationally have experienced who don't have like the privilege of American citizenship and like an easy path potentially to reporters who can help them share their story. But apparently this case is a pretty good case study of a lot of the fucked up situation that happens in these relationships that are often covered by the NDA. The interesting thing here is, of course, that Cindy B broke the NDA, not the surrogate. So you have to think how many surrogates have been treated like this but were forced to suffer in silence because they couldn't afford to, on top of that, handle the secondary legal battle of breaking the NDA.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting is that the final stipulation to get B to drop her lawsuit was that she wanted to be able to just legally, publicly smear Smith. Like, I won't pursue criminal charges if I can just smear you,
ruin your life
unabashedly forever. Smith's attorney said no, and still B contacts Wired to have this article written. The purpose of it was B wanted to smear Smith. I guess where I stand with surrogacy right now, in the way that women's bodies are being policed and politicized, and just in some of the stories I've read, some of the outcomes that we are kind of exploring and exposing, I think that I understand and respect the concept behind it. And I don't think it's wrong to have pursued surrogacy, but I do think right now there needs to be like a completely different system in place for me to think that I think that this is really dangerous. Like, you know what I mean?
It's tricky because then you go, are you like anti-organ transplants? You know what I mean? To bring up our friend Selena.
Exactly.
Selena Tifi. You know, there is that weird thing where it's like on both sides, like being anti-surrogacy is that like also weirdly sexist because you would never, if somebody said, oh, I donated my kidney to somebody who needed it, you would never be like, that's fucked up. Like,
I think I really get why someone who wants to be a surrogate should be able to be matched with someone who wants a surrogate. Like, I see that point, but I do think that these outcomes that are being hidden from potential surrogates, I think that there's a lot of predatory behavior at play that makes it so that I just don't feel that like the way it exists right now is ethical.
I guess I remain open-minded to both sides as we plow forth. I see that it's very complicated.
I remain open-sided, but leaning opposite of the way I was previously leaning.
All right. Should we talk about something fun?
Sabrina Carpenter, Jesus, the way God intended. So Sabrina Carpenter put out a new album called Man's Best Friend.
Emphasis best.
Best friend. You could be a man's good friend, but she's a man's best friend. And I think it would be remiss to not discuss it in the context of the controversial album cover. I read the Pitchfork review and the Rolling Stone review, and then I also read a Guardian piece that said, was it really that bad, that album cover? I guess I liked the album. I didn't love the album. And I also feel that people should be able to make fine albums. I think that stan culture has kind of ruined critique in this way where it's very difficult to be able to say that something is pretty solid. It kind of has to be like the best thing you've ever heard. And if you're not saying it's the best thing you've ever heard, you're actively smearing everyone's favorite artist. I listened to it again in full this morning and I felt that there was like more personality kind of like banging at the back door of this album. There was an undercurrent of like more energy that was trying to float to the top of like a very sweet, melodic, fun little album, you know? I'm trying not to infantilize Sabrina Carpenter, even though she is the size of a baby. I feel that people are expecting a lot from her in the feminism conversation. I think a lot of the non-official reviews I saw, reviews from people on social media, etc., almost expected this album to justify the cover.
Yeah.
In a way, like that's how it was being talked about. Like her persona has to be at odds with this cover and she needs to show us why she earned this cover for this album. And I feel that that's like a little bit ridiculous because she is also a person trying to figure out like who she is and where she stands in a world of the patriarchy. She has been at the cusp of breaking through for so long and she really busted through with Short and Sweet. And I think that this album was a too fast follow-up because there's so much pressure right now on musicians to just crank shit out so we don't forget about them. And this album, like her on her hands and knees almost felt like her at the feet of like the fandom being like, how much more can I give you? Like, here's more, here's more. And I think that for people to be like, actually, you don't understand satire enough to give us a cover like this feels like such a slap in the face to like how much she's trying to offer.
In Miss Americana, the Taylor Swift documentary, she talks about how as a woman you have to constantly be reinventing yourself and you have to be new and exciting, but in a way that they feel still represents some other part of you that just has yet to be discovered. And I heard a song recently that I felt like, oh, this is so Sabrina Carpenter's essence, and it was from emails I didn't send.
Oh.
And I wonder if how much of like the Taylor impact has made us be like, no, you have to be different, switch it up. Like, that's how she sounds. You know what I mean? Like, this is her music. When you think about how much a year is, you don't change that much in a year, especially a year where you've been working your ass off. Then you get a Lorde who comes out with Solar Power and people are like, well, this sounds too different.
Yeah, but I guess I don't mean that it sounds too similar to Short and Sweet. I feel that it sounds too similar throughout itself. Like, they're really, it feels like the songs, I've listened to it all the way through 3 or 4 times. I feel they kind of mash together in a way. There's a lot of really similar. And I think that the melodies, and there are musical moments that are really good and exciting, and there are musical moments that feel like filler. And throughout the album, like it kind of creates just like a mash of something really nice to have on in the background, but doesn't really hit you in any way. Like I was listening to Audrey Hobart's new album the other day, and Sabrina Carpenter, who's known as being like very witty and lyrical, I feel like there weren't really moments that grabbed, like musically, there weren't really moments that grabbed me. Lyrically, there weren't really very many moments that grabbed me. I feel like Audrey Hobart almost did a better job of like having those little undertone sly side moments where you're like, that's every relationship I've ever been in.
I feel like the Sabrina album has actually been really helped by TikTok's sound bites. Each line is so jam-packed with a metaphor and a joke that I do agree that when I first heard the album, I put it on the background and it did feel like this one cohesive, long event. Whereas I think having each segment by the 10-second pull out actually gave me more appreciation because you are able to break it down. Like it.
Yeah. I think that for the most part, I found it all very good. Like there's only one part in the whole album that I'm like, I'm rolling my eyes into hell. And there are a couple parts on the album where I'm like, this was awesome. In Tears, where she says, dance break. I was like, shut up. This is not Mean Girls, the musical. It felt a little too hammy, and I know she walks that hammy line really well. Like I like how she is on that cusp. I don't love Manchild as a single. I think that if Manchild had been on the second half of the album as that random song you discover through listening to it a couple times and go, oh, this one's actually kind of hitting, I would like it a lot more. I think that as a lead single, it doesn't hit for me. But overall, I think that, you know, bring back fine albums. And it's not something I'll celebrate, but it's not something I'll say, why'd you even put this out?
Amen. So the next thing we will have to discuss is not a headline or an article, but an Instagram caption that stopped me dead in my tracks, and not alone, but in comparison. This is Comparative Lit. Welcome to the comparison of two important captions by none other than Gigi Hadid and Kendall Jenner.
Clashly compares. Wow.
You know what these two women have in common, besides a lot of things? They are both Nepo daughters in terms of CNBC. Daughters of former memoirists.
Oh my God. I mean, Gigi is a world-renowned, the daughter of the most memoir-y memoirist.
Oh my God. Yeah. Winner of the tournament.
Okay. So they posed together for the cover of Vogue's October issue. Mm-hmm. Who should we read first?
I want to read Gigi first.
Okay.
Because that's what I saw first. I'm going to take you guys through my own mind. Gigi Hadid posted the photo of the two of them and said, Vogue October 25. This is for the Kenji girls. 2 emojis. This trip had us reminiscing. I love this cover so much. I love you and this time we got to have together, Kendall Jenner. I love this crew, Vogue magazine. She tags, 6 people. I love our teams. She tags 4 people. I love Jackson Hole, and I'm so appreciative to Anna for this chance to celebrate a decade of growing up and learning the world of fashion together, and to everyone who made this cover story adventure so special and memorable. Another tag, special thanks to the Diamond Cross Ranch family for your hospitality. This was gratitude heavy, joy heavy, tag heavy. Mm-hmm. And then I went to see what Kendall said.
Kendall says, lowercase I, I've dreamt of this shoot since my summers spent in Jackson Hole as a little girl, period. Lowercase T, thank you at Vogue Magazine and Anna for making it come to life, exclamation point. Lowercase A, all the more special to do it with you at Gigi Hadid. Enter, next line, Vogue October issue by Lachlan Bailey.
I really appreciate your caps, no caps, because that's deliberate.
So she capitalizes proper nouns, Jackson Hole, Anna, Vogue October, but she does not capitalize the beginning of any sentence.
And would you like
but they are still punctuated, and there is an exclamation point at the end of one of the sentences.
Can you please talk about what you're finding?
I think this denotes an effortful blasé. I think she's trying so hard to not try. I think she's trying so hard to say another Vogue cover where I'm on it with Gigi Hadid instead of just myself.
It really is different, the tone. I feel like Gigi's is so like grateful and happy and excited. And as you said, Kendall's is very like, well, I'm on the cover of Vogue. Oh yeah, my friend. And I'm not pissed.
I'm on the cover of Vogue again with Gigi again. I guess we'll do one of those little press pushes where we talk about how we're distantly a little bit related by our parents who won't stop getting married all the time. I guess I find Kendall Jenner's current presence interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel that there is this nothing but modeling from her.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about the tequila?
I know 818 Tequila is a huge deal. There would never be an influencer event in Montauk without it. But like, I don't know. There seems to be something like unsettled. Mm-hmm. Whereas Gigi is just kind of like, oh yeah, I live in Pennsylvania with my baby and I'm dating Bradley Cooper and now I'm on Vogue. Fun.
I guess to me, I wouldn't use the word unsettled. I'd say she's like really, like, I'm a serious model. I'm here to talk about the fashion of it. I'm not here to just be grateful to people.
I'm detecting perturbedness.
I just thought it was interesting how many people Gigi shouted out, including the fans.
And even the new editor-in-chief of Vogue, she tagged Chloe Mal, or however you say it. And Kendall's is distinctly Anna-centric. And I guess, do you want to give 2 incredibly different outros? Thanks, Claire. Great podcast. And then you do a series of thank yous.
Oh, okay, I get it. Oh my God. And to all of the worms who came here from the last podcast, thank you so much for following us. We're so excited to go on this journey together. I don't know where it's going to go and I don't know where we're going to end up, but I really appreciate that you're giving us a chance. I hope we make new friends. Thank you so much to our partners at Vox. Thank you so much to our new producer, Alyssa. Thank you so much to Bri Connelly, who made our incredible new intro that was not stolen from anybody and was in fact paid for and owned by us. Thank you so much to Ashley for being my best friend and being on this journey with me. Thank you so much to Bug Ann Hamilton for not having a medical crisis this morning. I feel like that's something she'd like to do to steal focus. Thank you so much to the people who made these cameras. Thank you so much to all of the wonderful journalists who compiled all of these interesting thoughts. And Thank you so much to all of you guys who are going to comment, like, review, subscribe, and tell us what you think. We can't wait to hear feedback. That doesn't hurt our feelings. And
good night and good noticings.